What was it like to be mentored by the great George Carlin, or to write for SNL, and is revenge a dish best served in a porta potty? All that and more today on the Number 2 Show. Hey, hello everyone. All you doo-doo monkeys, all you glory holers, all you prairie doggers. I haven't decided what we're going to call the fan base for this show. I may never decide, because they're all good names. But whatever you identify as, you're welcome in this stall. That's for sure. So welcome to the Number 2 Show. I'm your host, Rafe Williams. I am so excited for today's show. We have more than one very special guest, which gets me hard as a rock. And I'm excited to introduce them to you. We got so many cool things in store for you today on this show that I don't even want to wait. We're going to get to all kinds of crazy stuff. But first, let's get it started with our very first segment. As we all know, because I only get them for 15 minutes. Please, let's get it going for 15 minutes with Riz. Scott Rizzuto, everybody.
Hello. On. Oh, there we go. Hi.
There, his little microphone is on, as always. Good to see you, buddy. It's been a while. It's been about 7 seconds since I saw you.
Yeah, saw you 7 minutes ago.
So I'm here with Scott Rizzuto. As always, we get 15 minutes with Riz before he unceremoniously just exits the building. That's all I get with him. But today we have a second special guest to keep us both company, and he's staying for the whole show. Please welcome my very special guest, comedian Craig Gass, everybody.
Oh, my God, there he is. Actually taking a dump.
Craig's pushing hard over there. Craig is pushing some heavy ordnance over there, and he'll be with us soon.
Fiber, buddy, fiber.
Oh, my God.
We tried to warn you, bud. We tried to warn you to not. We told you you were just taking bites out of that Velveeta cheese. We told you there was going to be consequences, pal.
Rice expands in your stomach.
That's right. Craig's hurting over there.
You're going to pop a hemorrhoid.
Name for the fans.
Yeah.
You didn't come up with shitheads?
Yeah, shitheads, it's in there sometimes.
Okay, shitheads.
It's in there sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm starting the clock, by the way.
All right, Riz is starting his clock. A lot of heavy breathing.
Clearly a contractual thing. You got Riz into this. I know what the negotiation was, and it was like, well, can we get Riz for 15 minutes a week? Just get him in there. I love it.
It did kind of go like that.
Yeah.
I give you 15 minutes, not 20.
It'll help the brand.
15 minutes. I love being here.
This is actually the coolest setup I've ever seen for a podcast.
Yeah, listen, I'm sitting in a stall. You're sitting in a stall.
And
the host is sitting in the middle in an extra wide stall with a baby changer as a desk.
That's right.
And I've been on 2 podcasts, by the way.
Well, that means I'm better than at least one podcast, yes. And I'll take that deal. How are we feeling today, fellas? How's everything going?
Feel great. Great to see Craig.
Great to see you.
I mean, I can't really see him because you're 2 stalls over, but hearing your voice is just
always here.
Magical.
I'll put my foot underneath the stall and tap here.
Tap twice.
Well, I got a full house in here today, so if you do want to call, you got something that you'd like for Craig and Riz and I to chop it up about, call right now, 818-532-1420 on the Papa Squat hotline. That's right. For a good time, call 818-532-1420. We will take some live calls right now during the Riz segment and at the end of the show. So if you want to call now, call now. If you want to call later, call later. Or if you want to sit in the queue for 40 minutes like a psychopath, do that too. Either way, we're here and we're ready to give you advice or maybe just a fatherly over-the-phone hug if that's what you need.
If you need it, yeah.
If you need it, we're here for you.
And Rafe is a great host.
Thanks. I appreciate that, man.
I love taking the second chair.
Yeah. I honestly just wanted him to see what it felt like to be a sidekick.
I love it.
My whole contractual thing was just to make him sit directly to the right of me, and I'm in charge now. I'm the captain now.
Rafe, do you have pre-planned questions for Riz to make use of his time right now?
I don't always have pre-planned questions. Sometimes I got a little thing I might want to chat about, but a lot of times it's just us chopping it up. Why, you got something you want to ask him?
There's always questions I'd love to be able to ask him because it's usually the other way around. But I always like picking his brain about his
Tell you what, fire away, bro. Fire away.
Is there a celebrity that's been on your show that you despise so much because of their appearance that you'll never have them on again?
Great question.
No, I don't despise anybody. There were some disappointments. The biggest disappointment.
Let's get it.
You ready, Rafe?
Roast
I think
mode.
you know who it is.
Let's go roast mode.
Wait, can we have Rafe guess? Because this could be funny if he names people that are not.
Gosh, you told me one time. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there for it.
Is it a comedian?
It was a comedian. I do remember that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead and say it.
Former SNLer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right, Craig, you care to
Former
venture?
SNLer. Old school.
I'll give you a hint.
Yes, John Lovitz.
I was going to say something that's going to really trip me up.
Who? Who are you thinking? Who? Who?
All right.
Spill it, Craig.
I'm good. I can curse, right?
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is, where FCC can't fuck with us.
So, mutual friend of ours, Riz. We were in L.A. Wait, were you there when Rob Schneider flipped out on everybody?
Oh, no, I heard about it, though.
Okay, so Rob Schneider, it's the Grammy week, and Rob Schneider is one of the guys going through Radio Row.
Yes, Radio Row is when they put all the radio stations from around the country in like a big hall, like not a hallway, but like a ballroom,
Right.
And artists, comedians, music people go just basically from table to table. So like, and me and my old partner Woody used to do this all the time. We'd go out and we'd have a point table. And they'd go to us, and then they'd go to the next station and the next station.
Yes.
And it's an all-day thing.
So Woody is there, and he asked me to come down and join him. And so I sit in the co-pilot seat as different celebrities as people are coming in to join us. And Rob Schneider comes over, and he sits down, and he's very pleasant, and Woody starts the break by saying, "Hey, it's Woody. We're broadcasting live from the Radio Row here at the Grammys, and I'm joined by co-host A, co-host B, and Tracy Morgan." And I go, "What's up, white people?" And then Rob Schneider looks at me and goes, "Wow," and he kind of smiles, and then the conversation starts. And the first question is about how Rob Schneider got so upset about a bad review from Roger Ebert about Deuce Bigalow, male gigolo, that Schneider took out a full-page ad in the Hollywood Reporter writing a review about the one movie that Roger Ebert made 20 years ago, and he shit all over that movie.
Oh, it was a Valley of the Lost Dolls or something like that?
Yeah. That sounds right. And Woody starts asking him about it, and Schneider starts getting cranked up about it. And he goes, "No, man, that's not how it went. That's not." And he goes, "Well, I'm asking if." He goes, "No, man, no." And then it just leads very quickly to Schneider standing up, throwing down his headphones, going, "No, man, fuck you, fuck you, and fuck you." And then he looks at me and goes, "That's a good Tracy Morgan." And he walks away. And Woody goes, "Man, Schneider's an asshole." And I went, "I don't know. I thought he was pretty cool."
Yeah. He liked my Tracy Morgan.
He actually pointed at me and said,
I hope to God that off camera someone just yelled, "That's a huge bitch."
Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider's got a history of going off on radio people. He did it to I think a couple radio guys in Florida.
Yes.
He wound up having to apologize for it. But I would love to have Rob Schneider on, just for that element of danger. No, and with John Lovitz, I'm such a fan that maybe I was expecting something. Maybe I had expectations that could not be. Could not be met. But he was like, it was early in the morning for him. He brought his dog with him. He didn't really want to answer any questions. He was a yes or no kind of answer guy, and it was difficult.
Why guys like that don't understand how that conversation can translate into ticket sales blows my mind.
Yeah.
And the power of that conversation. And if I could ask a similar kind of question.
Yes.
And this would require you saying something very honest.
Yeah.
Who has come on the show that you had absolutely no feelings for or were not a fan of, but they were so wonderful that you went, "You know what? I'm going to defend that guy for the rest of their life," because they might be the kind of person that people like to bag on.
There were two people. I think off the air yesterday we had talked about this. Had never heard of Bert Kreischer before he came on the show.
Oh.
And Tom Segura. But I will say Bert Kreischer more because he was so cool the first time he came in. There's so many videos of people shitting on Bert Kreischer. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
There is now. It's fucking
It's
crazy.
a lot. And they actually use a clip from our show, his first appearance.
They do a lot, yes.
And a montage of like, here's why Bert Kreischer is a liar about stuff. because I think he had mentioned that he played in a band with the guy from Creed.
Yes.
And it wound up not being true. I don't know. But I will defend Bert Kreischer to the end because he was so cool. And every time we talk, he remembers me, even though he's, at the top of his game, remembers coming on the show. Genuinely, I feel like when we talk, he enjoys our talks. So, and listen, maybe he's blowing smoke up my ass. I don't know.
No, I think Bert is that guy. Bert's always been that guy.
Yeah, you've said that before, that you thought that you've known Bert a long time, that he's always just been kind of the Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah, he's always been that goofball that who just loves hanging out, and his energy is always just above everybody else's.
Yeah.
And
I will say the most memorable interview that I think that's ever happened on our show, and this was before you came on board, Rafe, was when we had Chris Kattan.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
When he was on, the first time he was on, he was wild.
Really?
Oh my God! He had accused Norm Macdonald on the show of abusing his assistant.
Whoa!
And it was enough where TMZ got a hold of us and said, "Hey, can we use your clip? The clip from your show?"
Whoa!
Yeah. So he accused Norm Macdonald of some weird stuff.
I remember that.
And it was unprompted too. Like he just kind of went off.
Whoa.
And it is all available. You could look all this stuff up if you want to verify. It's all out there. He had cursed so many times in one segment on the show. I had to dump out. The first time I've ever had to do this, and only time I've ever had to do this, I had to end the show early because the guest was so unhinged.
Yeah.
That I ran out of delay and had to go. The show's over.
And that was Kattan?
That was Chris Kattan.
But we had him recently, and he was in a much better place, it seemed like, right?
Yeah, I think he was going through some stuff.
Yeah. I had another comedian open for him and take him. He's like, man, I dropped him off at the airport, and he's like, I have Chris Kattan's driver's license. Because he's like, he was so just fucked up and disheveled. I think he was going through some stuff with rehab, which I can totally relate to. I've been clean and sober for 13, and I'm sure Craig as well.
That's awesome. Good for you guys. Hey, well, can I do one more memorable story of a comedian coming in? So not so much a comedian, but a very famous director. You know him as the director of Clerks and Dogma.
Love that guy.
Kevin Smith was in for an interview. This is at the old station, downtown St. Louis, for those of you who don't know. And so Kevin Smith and I are having a pretty good conversation. And behind Kevin is a huge window that leads out to the hallway. And I could see behind Kevin, and Kevin is looking at me, and I could see behind Kevin, I see the guy who had brought Kevin with him from the comedy club. Andy was his name?
Yeah.
Rafe?
Yeah, it was Andy.
So Andy, I'm seeing behind Kevin Smith collapse.
What?
Like he just passes out. He passes out. He's in the hallway. Now, thud, ground, out cold. I see one of our engineers, or one of our radio station engineers, stand over him with his hands over his head going, and as I can't hear what's going on because it's soundproof glass, I could hear him mouthing, "Oh my God." So Kevin Smith has no idea what was going on behind him. I see people rushing to help this dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he took a spill.
By the time the interview
Kevin's giving out.
Kevin had no idea what was going on behind him.
Promoting the website. This is where to get tickets.
By the time the interview was wrapping up, a stretcher was behind him.
Oh my God.
And they were stretchering poor Andy out into a waiting ambulance. And Kevin Smith had no idea what was going on behind him. And apparently they had been up all night and just smoking just some of this Kevin Smith Maui Wowie. Who knows where famous director Kevin Smith got this stuff from, but it messed with Andy so much that he passed out.
Yeah.
And hit his head, had a seizure, soiled himself.
Yeah, he went all in.
They took Andy out on a stretcher. Kevin, okay, as if it was like a scene out of a movie. As they're stretching him out, and I say to Kevin during the commercial break, "Dude, they're taking Andy out." he put his hand on the window as if like, oh, see you, buddy.
He pounded it through the glass.
Yeah.
Like when they said goodbye to Spock in Star Trek.
And
Great reference.
And they take him out, and Kevin looks at me and goes, fuck, he was my ride.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds right.
Moon, one of my co-hosts, had to drive him to the hotel.
That's amazing.
That's funny because I was on the show. He was there promoting and got bumped off of it. It was like my first celebrity bump.
You got bumped?
Kevin bumped me. Yeah, he said he didn't want any comics opening for him.
No way.
Because he does kind of a storytelling. He's like, I don't want the pressure, which I get. It would have been nice to know ahead of time. But the problem was like they locked my backpack in the green room, and they didn't want anyone in the green room, so I got held hostage. I had to watch the show so I could wait until the end to go back in and get my
was it
stuff.
A good show?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of celebrity story. You know, those things are always interesting because he's like, I own Ben Affleck's house. Ask me about that.
Okay, here's another
What was
story.
it like on the set of whatever? Here's something funny, though, about Andy. Because the same comedy club owner, Craig, or manager, was the first manager of Helium's, good buddy of mine still to this day. The first weekend here was a Dave Attell weekend.
Oh, yeah.
First weekend in St. Louis. This guy's experience in St. Louis was not good. Takes Dave Attell across the river to East St. Louis to the strip clubs late at night.
Okay.
Valets his car.
Okay.
And then they walk out of the strip club after being there a couple hours, and he watches his car drive away. And someone stole his car right in front of him. No. And Dave Attell's like, he picked me up at the airport. All my shit is in your trunk. So Dave Attell's suitcase, everything Dave Attell brought with him was still in Andy's trunk from picking him up at the airport earlier in the night. So, he had to stand there. So 2 times.
I mean, what clothes did David?
2 times he left people without a ride.
He had what? He had a black sweatshirt and a carton of American Spirits.
Yeah,
That's
but
basically
still,
what was stolen.
Still, that's Dave's.
Nailed it.
That's Dave Attell's travel ready to go. That's his bug out bag.
Oh, okay. Can I tell you a quick Dave Attell story?
Sure.
And then also remember the other story you were about to say about a guest. But
Oh, yeah. I don't want to hijack Rafe's show.
No.
That's a little late for that.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. I may go even over 15 minutes.
Go over.
So Dave Attell came on the show, his first appearance, and loved Dave Attell, huge fan. I loved his show where he, on Comedy Central, he was, staying up late. Huge Dave Attell fan for a long time. So he comes on the show. I think we have a good rapport. He thanks me. I go to his show that night. It was great. I'm in New York 2 weeks later, and we're at the Comedy Cellar. Dave Attell's on that night. I'm with my brother-in-law. I'm with some friends. I'm with a pretty big group of people. So the show's over, and Craig, you've been to the Comedy Cellar a million times,
Sure.
and so have you, Rafe. You go up the stairs, and it's kind of like in the middle of a street with apartment buildings on each side, with like walk-up steps. Mm-hmm. So Dave Attell's sitting outside.
he always sits on the stoop there.
Sits on the stoop, and he's smoking a cigarette, and I say to the group, hey, I'm going to go say hi to Dave. I know him.
Oh, no.
I walked over, and dude had no idea who I was.
Oh, no.
I just been on the
Fucked
show.
up,
All right, wait. Quickly, did you say who you were?
Yeah.
Okay. Still.
Yeah, he almost gave like, oh, great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I could see in his eyes like he had no idea who I was. And I'm like, okay, cool.
He's also awkward socially.
I know, but that was a rookie mistake on my part.
Oh, yeah.
But my favorite, a couple months ago, Dave and I were talking on the street. Some guy walked by and was like, oh, my God. Can I get a picture with you? And he goes, yeah, sure. And I go, here, give me the camera. I'll take the picture. I go to take the picture, and the guy goes, man, I loved you on that show. What was it called? It was on Comedy Central. And he goes, no idea. And he goes, the one where you stay up all night? And he goes, doesn't ring a bell. He wouldn't give him the satisfaction of telling him the name of the show.
You know what I equated it to? If I go to a strip club, and I get 2 lap dances and I think the girl is my girlfriend now.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna go, at a penthouse club and see my girlfriend.
Yeah. You're the guy at 2 a.m. waiting in the parking lot.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Oh.
And, especially since it was in front of my wife's brother and friends and stuff like that. It's fine.
You got burned,
It was fine,
dude.
It was fine.
That's just Dave's general demeanor, too, though.
All right, Riz, you have another guest you wanted to bring up.
Yes, okay. So, and I was kind of hesitant to take this guy as a guest. Not your traditional comedian. I'll see if you could figure out who it is. Not your traditional comedian. More known as an actor in a lot of big time.
The guy from fucking Entourage.
Yes. Jeremy Piven.
Yep. Good or bad?
Well, he was very nice, but he had just gotten started doing the comedy thing.
Right.
This was maybe his first tour. He had been involved in some allegations, some like Me Too allegations. I don't know if stuff was true or not. I don't think he was acting at this point because nobody would hire him.
Yeah.
So he started doing stand-up stuff. And he came into the studio and he launched into material right away. Now you know my radio show. I don't really want material.
It's conversation.
It's conversational. So it was enough where I had to go. I think I took a commercial break early. I went, hey, dude, just be yourself. I don't need any material. I don't need you to, start doing shoehorning in impressions when they don't need to be.
Right.
I don't need you to start doing your act. I think he was one of those guys, and this is very rare, where you go, all right, ask me about cars, the Super Bowl, and scrambled eggs. I'm like, what? This doesn't work this way.
How did he take that when you told him not to
He
do
was
it?
fine, and he wound up being all right.
Wow.
That's great.
Took direction. That's great.
Yeah.
I think he started the stand-up stuff as a way to keep money coming in.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
He had a name that could fill up a club.
100%. And Craig, you can attest to this. This is my friend opened for him, and it was a Saturday night, and he wanted late show, and he wanted to watch the UFC fight that was on.
Oh,
And
no.
he asked the feature, he goes, hey, man, let's switch places. And he goes, to my friend's credit, Kenny Kynes, he goes, what, man? And he goes, yeah, I'll go up and do 20, then you just close out the hour. I want to go watch the fight. And he goes, fuck no. Yeah. He's like, do you know how upset people will be?
Yeah.
One, that you only did 20, and two, that they're like, here's a guy you've never heard of to finish out the egg. He goes, I don't want to do that. He's like, your fans, people are here because they watch Entourage. They want to see you. And he's like, I'll do it, but what do you get paid per show? And he goes, you pay me what the headliner pay, I'll do it. And, he just couldn't even grasp. He's like, all right, man, sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. And he's like, you're not upsetting me. He's like, I just can't believe that you would even ask me to do that. Because he just didn't come from this world. And, as a headliner, that would be a wild fucking thing to do.
Yeah, but there's also this thing that shows how great Kenny is at standing up for himself, because most of us
would have done it.
When we're put in a weird position, and I think you can include radio people in this as well, we all learn how to do one thing and work on that one thing. And that doesn't include negotiating. We're not necessarily great negotiators.
Yeah.
We're just good we learn how to be better at the one thing we know how to do. And the business end of it can make us feel uncomfortable. So when somebody pushes you, sometimes you buckle. And
This is why we all have agents.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They handle all that stuff for us.
Yeah, Piven. So did Piven say anything about okay, I'll pay you, or did he just back off of it and say, all right, I'll close out the show and I'll miss my goddamn fight?
He closed the show out.
Yeah,
he definitely closed the show out. It was just an interesting thing that when some people get into that world because it is that if they can fill up a theater, it's a good cash grab if you're having trouble getting work, but he's still out doing it. So I don't know if he took to it or. I've never really met the guy. I wasn't here the day he came in to the show. So.
I went to the Friday night show. It wasn't bad.
That's great.
Yeah, he did impressions and stuff like that. He had some good stories about being on Entourage. It was fine.
What were his impressions of?
I think he did Stallone.
He does a walk-in too.
Does he really?
He does a walk-in.
Not as good as yours.
And you know what? Speaking of Christopher Walken impressions, I had Kevin Pollak on. Okay. And love Kevin Pollak. I mean, how many great movies has Kevin Pollak been in? Mm-hmm. And also a great stand-up. Mm-hmm. So he came in.
This is a great build-up for what's going to turn into a different kind of story, but go ahead.
No, and I didn't ask him to do any impressions.
Oh, okay.
Zero.
All right.
0 impressions.
And he loved it.
And we got off the air, and he goes, hey, man, I've never done an interview where somebody hasn't asked me to do impressions. I go, well, I think you're interesting in other ways, too. He gave me a hug. He goes, that was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a great feeling that is, too, probably as a host, to be like, oh, he's going to remember me.
Hey, listen.
He's not going to David tell you.
If he was sitting on a stoop,
Pollak,
he was sitting on a stoop, he would not remember who I was. This is before Miss Maisel.
You're like, remember me? I didn't make you do any impressions. And
if I would say that, I bet you would remember that.
It's weird. The first few years of doing radio in my life, I was so intimidated by the people who would let me into their studios, and I'd follow their lead. And years of doing radio all over the world, it's so interesting to realize how good some people can be and how bad some other people are. And how you realize sometimes in the middle of a conversation that, like, nobody gives a shit about this.
Right.
And I get so fucked up every time I come in to do Riz's show because I have a plan. I mentioned this the other morning. I have a plan. It's like, all right, I got to let them know this new thing. I got to let them know this other new thing. And then I'll walk in and they'll start a conversation. I'll be like, oh, dude, I got a story about that. And I'm like, I get so wrapped up in the conversation that I always walk out going, well, that was fun, but God damn it.
Yeah, I didn't get to any of my stuff.
I didn't get to any of my stuff because I was having so much, because the conversation was so good. It was so good that I love joining in on that conversation. And
well, listen, I know we're having fun now, but I got to go.
Do you have an extra roll over there?
My 15 minutes is way up, so.
Well,
I need some toilet paper.
See you later, fool.
All right, bye, guys.
All right.
Riz is gone, and to go, you know David Tell pretty well, Craig?
I don't know that anybody knows David Tell.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. Like, so one of my first, this is like one of those stories as a comic. They say don't meet your heroes or whatever. But I love Dave. I got to open for Dave. It was the best weekend of comedy at that point in my career I'd ever done. Really nice guy. But he's got that. He's been on the road a long time, man. Some of those road dogs get that 1,000-yard stare of a Marine. From,
yes, that
you
would
know
always.
what I mean?
It would always bum me out.
Yeah, and Dave was just kind of like, he was in that phase of. And last time he was here, he had Ian with him. He was like a totally different guy. My girlfriend opened for him. He was like very engaged, and I took him to a Greasy Spoon where they would let him smoke inside, and that's when I won him over. But
I love it.
I made that mistake. We all make that mistake early on. With like someone whether you email a comedian, you just do a rookie mistake of some kind. You ask to open for someone, you make a fool of yourself. This was the closest thing I had because I was like, I love David Tell. He's out smoking a cigarette, like reading the New York Times and the dock by the dumpster, behind the comedy club, and he's just smoking and staring off into the middle distance. And I was like, hey Dave, I just want to let you know, man, they say don't meet your heroes. And I gotta say, you disproved that, man. You've been super awesome. You've been giving me good advice. You've been really sweet, and I just wanted to say, man, like, it's really cool to work with you, and I know it's not a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me, feather in my cap and everything. And he just like slowly looked up from his newspaper and took a cigarette out of his mouth, and he goes, "You're a really intense guy." Just fucking roasted the shit out of me. And I was like, oh, dude, I just felt like I was an inch tall, and I was like, damn, David Tell just fucking roasted me because I eager beavered it too hard. And, of course, super sweet guy. He, calls Mike Vecchione, tries to get me on a USO tour. He does all these after he did his obligatory comedian roast. Do you have any moments like that of your own?
Yeah, lots of them. I was just thinking about...
What's the biggest time that you were like, fuck, I hope this comedian doesn't remember this? Like if you...
Well, I do want to point out that I saw Attell do that to Chappelle a couple years ago. Chappelle was... he brought a bottle of booze with him up on stage, and then was clearly getting intoxicated. And when he walked off there, Attell was up next.
Yeah.
Chappelle was a surprise drop-in, and Chappelle gets off stage, gets in the hallway, and he goes, "Hey, David Tell, what's happening, man?" And Dave goes, "Hey, Loudy." Because Chappelle was like, his voice was like that drunk, like, But I can't. I've definitely had moments. There's none that really. I'm actually just thinking about. There was this great comedian who I spent the last year of his life. I kept him company while he was dying of cancer. His name was Carl LeBeau, one of the greatest comedians who ever lived, and who took himself out of the game because of a crazy story. He was best friends with Sam Kinison, found out a year after Sam Kinison died that the girl that he was raising as his own, Carl LeBeau, was not his daughter. It was Sam's daughter.
I've heard a tale of this.
So yeah, I actually have a picture in my phone that I can show you that Carl sent to me. And Carl was so, he clearly was ridden with shame and embarrassment, and I thought, man, the whole industry probably thinks I'm a fool, and he kind of took himself out. And there was so many stories of comedians that would see Kinnison and his best friend Carl and would go, man, that guy Carl blew him off the stage. Sam was obviously a unique performance.
Sure.
But Carl really, so many people say that Carl is easily one of the best comedians they've ever seen in their life. Really, really powerful comedian. He had a great story about being at the Comedy Store and Richard Pryor coming in, and he had been doing some stuff with Richard, and Richard showed up to work on some material, and all the comedians just stood on either side of the hallway as Richard Pryor just parked his car and he started walking down the hallway, and he just kind of nodded at people, and then he looked over at Carl and went, "Oh, hey, Carl, how are you?" And Carl was like, and then he went to the payphone and called his dad in Texas and said, "Richard Pryor knows who I am." And I so related to that because I was at the Comedy Cellar one night when Chris Rock came in and he did a set, and then I saw that he was hanging out with some comedian friends of mine afterwards. So I just kind of slowly walked by the table, just like, "Oh, hey, what's up, guys?" And one of the comedians at the table was this guy, Godfrey. And Godfrey goes, "What's up?" What's that?
He's known for being brutal, so I'm curious how this is going to end for you.
No, Godfrey was cool. Not
Nice.
Gilbert Godfrey. Godfrey is a comedian, black dude from Africa. And Godfrey goes, "What's up, Craig Gass?" And he goes, "Chris, you know Craig Gass?" And Chris goes, "Yeah, everybody knows who Craig Gass is." And I just kept walking, and I called my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, "Chris Rock said that everybody knows who Craig Gass is."
When you walked away, he's like, "Who the fuck is Craig Gass?"
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I just, but man, that oh man,
What a great feeling, dude.
That made me feel like $1 million,
100%,
man.
Those are those moments I say that's some gigs you put it in your pocket. You do the hell gig for the money, and then there's some comedian moments you put it in your heart. When that's like one of those heart moments where you're like, no one's ever going to know about that but me. And it felt really, really good because a lot of work goes into this with not a lot of validation sometimes.
Absolutely. And
what a cool moment.
I have to tell you, there's a name that came up that is tied to a topic that you want to talk about George Carlin. And then
I won't hold on to that. Let me take a quick break and let's get into it.
Yeah, because I want to tell you, George was my mentor, and I have some incredible stories that show that why George went from being the guy who taught me how to be funny as a kid, but more importantly, taught me how to be a decent human being as an adult.
That's awesome. Well, all that, we're going to take a quick break, and that was the first thing I'm going to talk to Craig about when we get into his official interview.
Hey, I'm at the Funny Bone this weekend in Westport.
That's right. Craig is at the Funny Bone, Westport, all weekend long. That is 2 shows, or 1 show Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, 1 show Sunday. Go to funnybonestl.com, get tickets right as soon as we're done here.
STLfunnybone.com.
STLfunnybone.com. Just type in Funny Bone. It'll come up, goddammit. I guarantee it. And then get some tickets to Craig, and we will be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. HPV, chill out. Everybody's got it. All right, and we're back. Thanks for everybody for that long. Oh, we have so many sponsors beating down my door. I got so many. Rolex, Jaguar. I got to beat them away with a stick. I literally do. But I appreciate all the sponsors that we do have, Glory Holes and Donut Holes. So I'm back here now, and my guest today, he sat in with 15 Minutes for Riz, is Craig Gass. For those of you that don't know, Chris Rock said everybody knows who Craig Gass is, but if you're one of the dumbasses who doesn't know, Craig is a excellent stand-up comedian, impressionist. You know his voice from Family Guy, American Dad. You know his sexy face from Sex and the City, King of Queens, and tons of stuff that I probably don't know about. But please welcome officially Craig Gass, everybody.
Excited to be here in the toilet.
I'm excited to have you in my toilet, bud. Let's give him it. He deserves it.
Rafe, you are a really good host. I cannot overstate that enough. As a guy who does a lot of radio, I was really pleasantly surprised. I just thought, we'll hang out, we'll shoot the shit, but you really move this show. It's incredible.
I tried to.
That is a skill set that you either have or you don't.
You think? You don't think that's something that you can learn?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think it's like stand-up comedy. You either have this idea of how to be funny or you don't. And it's not something that that someone can teach you. And you got both. So
hell yeah, brother. I'll take that. Everybody knows who Rafe Williams is. So we touched on something before the break, dude, and this is something you and I kind of talked about a little bit yesterday, and I was excited to pick your brain about it, but I was like, let's save it for this because you were, quick story, and I told you this yesterday, when people, because this is a common question, when you go do shitty interviews, the same 4 questions come up as a comedian. Who are your influences? When did you know you were funny? How did you get into comedy? You know, like we get the same questions, but and it's a cliche answer, but for me, it's always George Carlin, Richard Pryor.
I get if people Google me, I have the same questions come up, but it's a different set of questions. It's about my family being deaf, living at Eddie Van Halen's house,
which is cool as hell.
It's a crazy story. There's a lot of crazy stories within the crazy story, but biggest influence, of course, and it's George and Richard. Those are the 2 guys. I
agree. I've always said, when people ask me about it, I'm like, those guys will never come off my comedy Mount Rushmore, just because. For me, I remember being at a friend's house. He had a Nintendo Power Pad, which made him the rich kid in my shitty neighborhood, and they had HBO. This was back when like one guy had HBO, and everybody would go to his house.
Yeah, late at night, and you wait till the parents go to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, he had it in his room, which was fucking unheard of in 90 or whatever.
But you're still sneaking it in.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know it. And I remember it was like during Dice's heyday. Wow. And I watched Dice, and I knew, like, oh, this is naughty. I'm not supposed to be hearing this. And I loved it. But then everybody fell asleep, and George Carlin Jamming in New York came on. And I remember, like, that's when something clicked in my brain where I was like, this is an art. This guy's doing something special. And I feel like he's talking to me. Even though I didn't get probably all the jokes at that age, I felt like I was watching something that I was like, this is what I should be striving for if I would ever get into this art form.
Agreed.
So, and I've always said, if you could take George Carlin's mastery of the English language and ability to really break down a topic and tell you a truth about it, and mix that with Richard Pryor's ability to be vulnerable and tell you truths about himself, you would have the perfect comedian. That
is a great summary, and I could not agree with you more about that. George taught me a lot as a kid about how to be funny. He started affecting the way we talk to each other on the phone. We noticed his ability to drive home a point by cupping the microphone. Yes. And my friends and I would talk like that on the phone and be like, are we going to get together today? I would, but you're an asshole.
Yeah.
So it was crazy when I first started doing stand-up to meet him, get introduced to him by his opener, Dennis Blair. And Dennis said, you got to hear this guy. This guy does impressions. Listen to his Sam Kinison. And George laughed. And I remember just realizing in that moment I had never seen George laugh. I watched all his Tonight Show appearances, watched all his specials. I was obsessed with the guy. Never saw him laugh.
Dude, that's a good point, man, because now that you mention it, I don't know if I ever have, because he's so on point with what he's doing and being present and in the moment and having being sharp that I don't know that I ever saw him let his guard down and let out a big belly laugh.
You know what's funny? I remember him saying, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit into the relationship, but I remember him saying that he really was self-conscious about the fact that he was a really bad guest because he doesn't know how to loosen up and just enjoy a conversation, that he always comes in with a game plan, and he watches other comedians, actors who seem comfortable just laughing and being comfortable in their own skin, and he was always envious of those people. And that was so fascinating to hear from a guy who was so good. And by the way, another thing about him that was really fascinating, every time he would give me advice, he'd say, this is just my opinion, okay? It's just an opinion. I'm just a guy giving you an opinion. I'm like, yeah, but he's like, I think he even said I'm not going to play the role of God. I'm just giving you an opinion. And I'm like, but you are God. You're a comedy God,
Yeah.
We started this relationship where he wanted to help me with my career. I never took him up on the actual help, him and his manager, Jerry. He said, yeah, Jerry could be your manager. And I don't even think Jerry knew what to do with me. He had never broken a comedian. He was a concert promoter who developed such a great relationship with George that George said, well, you should just manage me. But so Jerry had no experience of breaking a comic. He just knew how to manage finances for someone who's already making money. And but over the years, I remember Josh Wolf started at the same time I did. And I told Josh Wolf, you're not going to believe this. I hung out with George Carlin, and he wants to help me with my career. And Josh said, you know what this means? And I go, yeah. I'm never paying for a George Carlin show for the rest of my life. I'm going to see George Carlin for free anytime I want. And so that was my thing, is when I was living in Seattle at the time, whenever George came to Seattle, whenever he came to Washington or Oregon, I would bring a different group of comedians and say, hey, let's go hang out with George. And I'd introduce him, and George would remember everybody's name right after he was introduced for the rest of the night and would answer any question, and was very engaging. And there's a couple things that really stand out about him. One was I used to have a pen pal. In high school, I used to have a pen pal. And we lost touch after I started doing stand-up. And one day, just out of the blue, she calls me. She goes, Craig, it's Lisa. I go, Lisa? She goes, yeah, Lisa, from Florida, your pen pal. And I was like, how'd you get my number? And she goes, I have the craziest story. The last time I talked to you, you were starting to do stand-up, and I know that you said that George Carlin had become a friend of yours, and he was offering to help you with your career. And so George Carlin performed in town last weekend in the Miami area, and I went to the show, and this is insane. She says, I wrote a note, and I handed it to the security guard, and I said, can you give this to George, please? And he did. The security guy went all the way backstage, handed George the note, and the note said, hi, George, my name is Lisa. You and I have a mutual friend, Craig Gass, and I've lost touch with him. I don't know how to get in touch with him. Can you please let him know that I'm trying to connect with him? And here's my information. George says to the security guard, can you grab whoever this is and whoever they're with and bring them backstage? Security guard comes out, grabs Lisa and her girlfriend. They go backstage, and George tells her, like, you know, I don't have my phone numbers with me, but I can tell you that Craig is getting thrown out of a lot of comedy clubs, but he seems to enjoy that. He seems to get a kick out of it. But I don't have my numbers and blah, blah, blah. And I go, wow, that's such an incredible story. And I go, well, wait a minute. Then how'd you get my phone number? And she goes, well, that's the other part of the story. Listen to this. And she pushes play on her answer machine. This is back when we had answer machine tapes. And I heard, boop. Hi, Lisa. George Carlin. I met you last weekend when I was in Miami. I'm home now, and I got my phone numbers out. This asshole moves a lot, so here's a couple phone numbers. And he rattled off all the phone numbers, and she dialed all of them until she found me. And I was like, that's fucking cool. That is so fucking amazing.
That he went the extra mile too to get a hold of her and, you know, make sure that he made the connect. It's he was such an prolific. I remember there was these old I listened to these old, they were CDs, and it was blank on comedy. There was a Seinfeld on comedy, there was a Carlin on comedy, and it was just like an hour interview about, and you know, this is before the internet, dude. So when you're young and you're trying to figure out how to be a comic, this was like finding a gold nugget. So because it was like George Carlin talking about about the process and the way he approached it, and it was so on another level from anything I'd ever heard before. And you know, they talked about like his comedy being smart, because he talked about him being a good guest or a bad guest, and he had said something about like he goes, I don't try. He's like, you try to show, you know, people, you try to make people think. And he goes, no, I try to show people that I think. And he's like, I always had a chip on my shoulder because I never went to college. You know, high school, I was always like a funny guy, but I always felt like I was a bright guy, and I just didn't apply it. And, you know, he's like, comedy's about tilting your head to the side and seeing something in a incongruent or weird way, and can you get a room full of people to tilt their head with you? You know, which I thought was like a really profound way of saying, like, teaching you about point of view, right? About like, it's about expressing it's not about pandering to them or to try to like preach to anybody. It's about expressing your point of view and getting people, whether they agree with you or not, to at least tilt their head to the side and see things from your point of view, and that's where the best comedy, the most memorable comedy comes from. And I mean, he was dropping all kinds of lasers in this interview, but that one specifically stuck out to me because I remember like there was on Bill Maher's old show before it was politically incorrect. Was that his first HBO show?
Politically Incorrect was actually on ABC first before
Okay.
it went to.
The one with 4 guests, I just remember George Carlin eviscerating someone on there about
Really?
the choices, about how he's like, they try to make you believe about choice in this country. He's like, not about anything important. There's 3 big oil companies. There's 2 political parties. He goes, you know what you can choose? 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins.
Right,
He goes, it's all a fucking illusion. And I just like some of the things he said were so, profound. And I remember like jamming in New York. The thing that always amazed me about George, and him personally, really intrigues me, is like one of the few comics that in one set could move through the topic of rolling the proper way to roll a booger all the way to a full-on indictment of the Catholic Church.
Well, he would always say, I remember him saying, like, you don't want to hit people over the head right away. He said, jab at them, let them come in, and then every once in a while, pull out a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And hit him over the head. I just wanted the relationship more than anything else. And this is creepy, but I saved all my answering machine tapes.
That's not, dude, I would have too. That's not creepy to me.
I have all his messages that he left me, and he, as a human being, was so beautiful. We were talking yesterday about how I had that famous thing about fuck the planet, fuck recycling, fuck the planet. The planet's going to be fine.
Yeah.
He recycled. George recycled. And when he told me that, I said, really? You? And he goes, well, it makes me feel good,
Sure.
He goes, my garbage man, he caught me one day and he said, hey, George, I thought you didn't get into this. And I said, every little bit helps, right? And he said, because I love people. I love people one-on-one. I think that people as individuals are really beautiful. It's when they start to form groups with an agenda that they get really, really scary. And God, I think about that all the time
me too.
right now, all the time. And
it applies more today than ever, really.
What's crazy is George was married to...
before you move on, that story reminds me. I saw an interview with him, and this is what I actually... So Mark Twain and George Carlin are 2 of my contemporary heroes, and not so contemporary. And I had gone through a period, Kurt Vonnegut as well. Or these are 3 people I really admire. I always thought they were very smart, very good at satire. I went back after being a fan, and I read and watched their work chronologically to see, and I noticed a trend, and it worries me.
Wow.
As a comic, they all got darker. As like if you read Kurt Vonnegut's first novel and you get to the last novel, you can see them slowly give up on the human race. Same thing for Mark Twain, same thing for George. If you get down to George's last special, he is hitting you over the head in that one. He's no longer,
He's so angry. And
so
physically, he started to change.
He's so angry, yeah, and physically changed. And I saw a quote from him somewhere on a show, and he's like, and he's talking about himself. He's like, scratch any cynic, and you'll find a shattered idealist underneath. And I'm curious if you saw that person, the shattered idealist under, because I have a feeling that, like, when you tell the story about him recycling, I'm like, I think he was a guy that had a lot of hope for humanity.
I think his health got in the way. Mm-hmm. His personal health got in the way and made him I don't know, maybe he got scared with his health. The last time I talked to him, unfortunately, was a prank call. I knew that his health wasn't great. And I called, he picked the phone up, and he said, hello. And I said, hi, George, it's Al Pacino. I got a thing on my balls. I've been touching it, and I've been playing with it. And George goes, yeah? I never really had a punchline, didn't really get to a point. I stopped and said, sorry, George, it's Greg Gass. I just haven't talked to you in a while, and I wanted to say hello. And he goes, yeah. Hey, I'm at the doctor's right now. Can I call you back? And I was like, oh, my God, I'm sorry. And I let him go, and I was like, oh, man. And then the sad truth is, whenever he would call me, I would just feel like, what am I going to say to him? And I wouldn't pick up the call. You know, I was
After that, you mean?
Anytime he called, I very rarely pick up the phone for him because I was so like just relaxing, watching TV. The phone rings. It's George Carlin, and I'm like, and I'm still like that today. I don't know what to say to somebody, so I don't pick up the phone.
Huh.
I get nervous about my love of their work, my love of their craft, that I get nervous talking to them. But my God, there are two things I want to tell you about George that really will not help me sell tickets for my shows this weekend. This is going to be the most opposite of funny set of stories you will ever hear about a comedian. So I will probably end up. I'm sure people will be calling the Funny Bone in Westport, and I'll probably start getting refunds after this story.
No way.
George loved Brenda, who he was married to for several decades. Brenda, the way I remember it is that Brenda was diagnosed with breast cancer and died 3 weeks later on Mother's Day. That's how I remember the story being told to me by Jerry, George's manager. And George, I called him to say, "Hey man, I just heard about what happened, and here I am, what was I? I was in my mid-20s. I'm talking to a grown man who's a fully developed human being, and I'm trying to express something, and I know I don't know how to do this. I know that I'm in a weird spot. I'm telling somebody with so much more experience in life. I'm trying to say something to say I'm sorry, and then I just said, all I know is I've never heard a man your age talk about his wife as much as you do, and I'm just sorry." And he said, "I hear you. Listen, I got to do the Tonight Show. I got to do a thing here, but I really hear you, and I'm going to call you back, but I feel what you're trying to say to me." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "So yeah, I'll call you back." And I go, "All right." And he goes, "All right, don't take your dick out on the bus." And he hung up, and I went, "What?" And then I called Dennis, the opening act, Dennis Blair, to say, "Dennis, is he okay?" And Dennis said, "Yeah. You know, when it happened, we all went over there the other night when she passed, and my wife and I went over to his house, and Kelly, his daughter, answered the door. George came out, and he said he was exhausted. He said, 'Listen, I'm really tired. I've been up for a few days, so I got to go to bed, but I'll call you guys later.' And we said, 'Okay, well, if you need anything, please call us.' And he said, 'Yeah, absolutely.' And he started walking down the hall. And he said, 'My wife and I both saw this. Brenda loved to collect stuffed animals. There were stuffed animals all over the house that she had collected over the years. And Dennis said, my wife and I both saw George walking down the hallway. He opened the door to his bedroom, and my wife and I could both see inside his bedroom. And we could see that George had taken all of Brenda's stuffed animals and put them all in the bed. Mm-hmm. And he slept with all of her stuffed animals. And I mentioned that to Kevin Smith when we did a show together in Toronto. And Kevin got really emotional hearing that and said, you know, when I hired George to be in my movie Dogma, I couldn't believe that he was interested. And he said, I really need to meet with you because there's something really important I need to discuss with you. And he said, I was really certain that my budget just wasn't enough for George. And the one thing he wanted to discuss is he said, I have an issue. I'm going to be playing a priest in this movie. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I have this wedding ring, and my wife passed away last year. I don't want to take it off. Mm. So is that okay? That was his one thing.
Yeah. Is
he didn't want to remove his wedding ring for the scenes because he loved her so much. And so, yeah, I think my shows at the Funny Bone are canceled now. So
no, man, that's great. That's the kind of stuff I like on here, dude. That is so interesting to me. You know, we all know everybody knows the iconography of these types of people, like what they're famous for, and to hear the human side of it. And those were the two things you were talking about, was the stuffed animals and the not wanting to take his ring off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to go to a break, but I got a couple of questions I want to ask about George.
Absolutely.
When was the last time you talked to him?
That prank call. It was probably a few months before he passed away was the last time I actually talked to him on the phone.
So it was when he was at the doctor?
And he was at a doctor's appointment, and his health had started to decline. So, but that was the last time I talked to him, was a prank call.
Okay. What was the most important thing you think he taught you as a mentor, both in comedy and in life?
It's that despite being this person that was larger than life, his body of work was so brilliant and so beautiful. He was very, very selfless, gave his time. And over the years, I've heard from a lot of people who said that they sent him a note and they left a phone number on the note, and George called him. There was for some reason, he was in Chicago for a while towards the end of his life. And one of the managers at Zany's in downtown said, George was in Chicago. And I go, yeah, I knew that. And they were like, he would come into the open mic, and the cover, like, we made all the comics pay a $3 cover. And I had said to George, I'm like, oh, you don't have to pay, George. And he said, nope, I'm a comedian and I'm paying. If all the comedians are paying, I'm paying $3. And he just really showed me how to be a kind human being. And it meant so much. And it was just something that was natural for him. So whenever I just thought, well, sometimes I get impatient with people. Who am I when George Carlin is such a much better at everything human being? And look at how much time he makes for people and how much of an impact it has on people. So,
yeah, man, that's awesome. And I've said this before on the show. Being a comedian is such a weird, it's such a weird occupation because there's no blueprint. There's no, you don't go to Cornell and get your degree in accounting and go work in an accounting firm. You just figure it the fuck out, and there's no blueprint, but I think success leaves clues if you're willing to pay attention. And the three most common things that I've found that unfortunately are true in comedy is that kindness, deliver the goods when your number gets called, but also treating people well, and just not being an asshole, and giving freely of your time is the most valuable currency. And I'm sure it's like that in most occupations.
Your story about what you found George saying when those CDs so-and-so on comedy, that was really mind-blowing to me, because I've been saying my whole life that you shouldn't take a comedy class because you'll never be able to take a comedy class from a George Carlin or a Dave Chappelle. And so I've always thought that it wasn't a good idea to take a comedy class, because those are those are the guys who you would have the most to learn from. And to hear you describe that you found these conversations of them actually breaking down the craft, and the one little nugget that you remembered was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. I saw it. It was so crystal clear to me, knowing his body of work and his description of it. As I hold on to the shitter, as I fucking settle in for this conversation.
Settle in for the last
This
drop.
shitter might be the best podcast I've ever been on. God damn, Rafe, you are.
Hell yeah, brother.
You are fucking killing it.
Isolate that, Zane.
Does anyone listen to this?
There's 12 people in the chat. No. Yeah, we do all right, man. I think I got lucky because I had a built-in audience coming into this with the point. We get 30,000 or so downloads an episode at least.
I love it.
People are going to hear it, and people are watching it live on YouTube. You can catch Craig all week at Westport at the Funny Bone. Say it again, STL Funny Bone or Funny Bone STL?
I believe it's stlfunnybone.com, but also you can go to my website, getgas.com, getgas with 2 S's.com.
Yeah, or check out the Riz Show socials. We share it on there, and we'll share it again this afternoon. I'm going to take a quick break, come back, and I'm going to just keep chatting with you about a couple of other topics. Is there anything else about George Carlin? Here's a good question. I want to end on this, and this might put you on the spot. But I like how sincere and heartfelt this is, because I am much more interested in that, and we do that a lot on the show. We take little. We don't have to be dropping disingenuous jokes left and right. Sometimes it's nice to like really, and everybody in the chat's like, we're loving this conversation, dude. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. So, I don't think you're going to be getting any refunds. The thing I would be curious about is, because the last time you talked to him, you said it was kind of, he was at the doctor's office in a bit. If you could have talked to him one more time before he passed, what do you think? What would you have liked to have said to him?
That's so tough. I mean, it's like, I talk on stage a lot now about my mom. My mom, she ended up in a hospice, and I couldn't believe that I was finally at this stage in my life where I'm sharing a room with my mom, and I'm watching her. This was my worst nightmare my whole life. I remember being a kid. My mom was the one who taught me the concept of it, of death. And I had a dog died. And or my mom saying, we're all going to die. And I still remember the trauma of that. I still remember the, what? Like, no, I can't, what? Like, I was so floored by that. Not because it meant that I was going to die, but because that means my mom is going to die. I couldn't handle that concept. And so all those years later, whenever I would think of like, what would be the worst possible thing that could happen in life? And I would think about that moment. And George, because I never had my dad in my life, I wanted him to be, I didn't realize at the time, but I really was using him as a father figure. And he'd say, if you want, he actually said, if you want me to call a comedy club, if you want me to make some calls, get you in a comedy club. And I was like, I had literally just started doing stand-up. I was like, that is so weird to be like on a little t-ball field trying to learn how to swing a bat.
Right.
And having,
Mickey Mantle
just walk along like, hey, let's, how about we get this kid signed, huh? Like,
Yeah.
I had the wherewithal to go like, nah, I don't, I even sent him a tape and said, hey, I just sent you the tape because he wanted to see what I was working on. And I said, don't watch it. It's like, I'm going to work on what I sent you. And he goes, all right. And I have multiple messages from him on answering machine tapes where he goes, hey, Craig, it's George. I've got your VHS tape here. I haven't watched it. But if you want me to, I will. But I haven't watched it yet. So call me. Let me know if that's okay. And all I wanted to do was call him and just ask him about life. Like, I wanted to ask him about God.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask him about drugs. I was becoming a drug addict. I wanted to ask him what I didn't understand about politics, which was a lot. And I wanted to hear his brain, which I knew was so much more well-informed. And like with my mom, your brain goes into overdrive when you think, oh my God, what else do I want to know?
Yeah.
And it shuts down. And you just, when my mom was in the hospice room, all my friends would text me saying, hey man, if you get another chance to talk, make the most of it. I love you. And I, God, if you're ever in that situation, my God, will you overanalyze that?
Oh, yeah.
So all as beautiful of a human being as George is, I couldn't bring it down to one question.
Sure.
All I could do was just,
Well, I think all those things kind of apply, man. Like you think that it's always like, well, what would you say? And that's kind of a trick question I'm floating out there where it's like, I don't know, a million fucking things is usually the answer.
All I can think of is anyone who's in the St. Louis area and knows that, all of this is about promoting a show I'm doing this weekend is thinking, what kind of fucking show is this that this guy?
The show is funny as hell, and honestly, man, my audience knows what's up. Like, we get into some deep. We do deep dives on here. It's the opposite of the radio show where you got to move through everything quick. And everything's got to be on. Like, this is a lot more conversational, and like you're crushing it, man. No one's gonna trust me. If anything, you're selling tickets this way.
If I'm selling
George
tickets,
Carlin mentored this guy and Chris Rock knew who he was, what the fuck are you waiting for? St. Louis, get you some tickets. Let's take one quick break, and then we're going to come back. I'm going to move through some rapid fire topics with you and get to some a segment I like to call Celebrities Pooping.
I'm gonna stand up, turn around, and piss, and then I'll see you guys in a second.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Once again, our sponsor of the day, HPV. If you ain't got it, are you even fucking? And we're back, and we're having a good time, and we're going to get into a little segment I like to call the Annals of History.
From the Annals of History.
Okay, pretty sure he mispronounced that. I'll have to talk to Riz about getting a new VO, or maybe we'll just leave it. The Annals of History. We're going to get into a little bit of your history real quick, Craig. And and I know you have a million. I got about 4 things I want to move through. I can sit here and talk to you. I would love for you to come back. I was actually thinking during the break, you were talking about George Carlin and having all these tapes. I'm like, dude, that would be a fucking cool podcast, is just going through all of those taped messages of George.
Yeah,
and visiting them in order, man. That would be a really cool.
Yeah, one of them was a really long one that he left after Mitch passed away. And my first roommate in New York
You're killing it. That's first thing on my list.
Was Mitch Hedberg, and he left this long, beautiful message about, like, yeah, man, that's a shame. So talented, and he just went in this long fucking thing. And but yeah, he. It's funny because as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, like, how often do you do this? I might want to come back and do this one more time before I leave. So, but so your first question's about Mitch.
Yeah, I just wanted to know. A lot of people won't realize, like, the you have so many cool intersections with icons, really, and one of them was that you were Mitch Hedberg's, early on, you were Mitch Hedberg's roommate, which is got to be an interesting, speaking of people who are iconic, in such a short time, I don't think there's anyone who did comedy for such a short time that influenced more, good and bad, by the way, influence more comedians, because there's nothing, I saw Mark Maron talk about this on a podcast with Norm, actually, and he's like, whose rhythm he was talking about Attell's rhythm, and he was talking about God, who was the other guy's rhythm? He was like, really, he's like, Attell had a thing, he's like, where he would have a joke and then he'd write it to death and he'd kill it, and it wouldn't even make it to the stage because he'd override it early on. But he's like, a lot of people in New York were doing Attell, and he's the one person that he thought he saw the most was Mitch Hedberg. And of course, Norm was like, God damn it, if it's not Mitch Hedberg, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, and Norm did an impression of Mitch.
Right, 100%.
Did he do it on that thing that you saw?
It was a podcast with him, and I think he was referring to himself, that Mike maybe, even Mitch had a little bit of an influence on him. But how did that come to play? Like, how did you guys become roommates? What was that experience like? Not to be too open-ended in the question, but I'm just curious, like, what, living with Mitch during the formative years and things like that, like, what that experience was like for you.
He also went through a really awkward breakup at the time with his live-in girlfriend, Jana, who I think we're both doing our interviews on the same day for the documentary that they're doing. I believe it's going to Netflix.
About Mitch.
And Attell already did it. Lewis Black, Tom Rhodes, Stanhope, all these people in Mitch's life all have participated. I met Mitch opening for him in Seattle, and he had a buzz about, this is before the internet, so you would hear, like, certain guys would come to town and comedians would be like, oh yeah, you got to watch this guy, Patton Oswalt. Like, really? Oh yeah, dude, this guy's really unique. Oh man, Mitch Hedberg, dude, this guy's going to be really, like, and so when I heard about this buzz around Mitch, I just started campaigning to feature. I was like, can I open? Because it just sounds like this guy's a big deal, and didn't know anything about him. And I got the gig, and first night, hey, Mitch, I'm Craig. I'm the guy who's opening for you. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, that is cool. And then I was like, all right, man, I'm going to go do my thing. And I'm super high energy, especially back then.
Yeah.
With all the cocaine. And super high energy.
That does help with the energy usually, yes.
It does. And like, all right, man, you guys ready for your headline? Please welcome Mitch Hedberg. And then Mitch comes out and he goes, and I'll never forget that first night, man, was fucking magic. Mitch goes up on stage and it's a sold out room and he goes, all right, hey, where's Thomas? Thomas, where are you? And a guy in the back of the room said, I'm over here. There's no seats, man. And Mitch goes, well, if somebody has an extra seat, make room for Thomas. You know what, Thomas, fuck it. There's a stool on the stage. Why don't you just come up on stage and sit on the stool? And then from the back of the room, you just started hearing, sorry, excuse me, excuse me, sorry, excuse me, sorry, excuse me. And this guy slowly starts working his way from the back of the room to the front of the room in this packed house. And then he gets up on stage and turns around, and everyone started laughing because nobody knew who the fuck this guy Thomas was, but he was clearly very high. And he got up on stage, turned around, and was like, "Oh shit!" Like he's just seeing how bright the lights are on stage, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he's like looking down, his eyes are squinting. And I always remember he had a leather jacket on that had a homemade pin. It wasn't like the logo that you would get at Spencer's.
Right.
He typed the word Motorhead on a piece of paper and made it into a pin. And it was on his leather jacket.
Did it have like what's that called? The
umlauts?
The umlauts on it, or was it just a regular O?
That's the amazing thing, is it didn't have the umlauts. That's how I could tell that it was homemade. And so Mitch goes, all right, well, my name's Mitch, and these are my jokes. And he launches into his first joke. And back then, Mitch, it took an audience a bit to figure out what he was trying to do. And he either bombed for 45 really uncomfortable minutes, or after 5-10 minutes, he would start to build and just destroy.
Yeah.
Because they started to get it, and they started like syncing up with him. And
I think that happened on his Comedy Central taping, right? Wasn't it like at the end? I remember him being like, oh, you guys like me now. I'm going to do my first jokes again. Because he's like,
oh, I didn't know that.
He mentions it because he kind of has a slow start for like, they don't know what to make of him for like 10 or 15.
Oh, that's funny. Well,
and he's like, I want to pet that frog, and he did the frog bit, and they weren't really responding. And then he started murdering like the back half, and he's like, you guys really like what I'm doing now. He's like, I think I'm going to do the first 15 again.
That's hilarious.
And he launched back into, he did all his jokes again. They said like you can find it on YouTube, but like that's interesting to hear that was like common.
Well, here's where it gets crazy. His friend Thomas comes out of the crowd, sits down on the stool, and Mitch goes, all right, my name's Mitch, and these are my jokes. And he goes into his first joke. And after a beat, the crowd started laughing. And Mitch started going into his next joke, when suddenly Thomas understood what had just happened with the first joke, and Thomas started laughing, which made Mitch go, ha ha, hell yeah. And then the crowd laughed again. And then Mitch and Thomas laughed again. And then the crowd laughed again. And as the night went on, every joke that he did had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 waves of laughter.
Because of the
rhythm that was building up, like the audience would get it. Thomas took a second. He figured it out. It made Mitch laugh, made the audience laugh, which made Mitch and Thomas laugh together, which made the audience laugh again. And it went on like that for the whole show, in magically what really ended up being about maybe 20 minutes worth of material for 45 minutes to an hour, because there was so much giggling and laughing happening. It was one of the most magical things I've ever seen in my life.
That's a cool thing, man. That's
and
a dream come true.
It was just these incredible waves of gentle laughter happening throughout the entire room, and
watching someone kill that way too is like really something to see.
It was the most unique performance I had ever seen because of that built-in setup that could not be repeated. And every time he'd come back to town, I would campaign to open for him again. And then I'm starting to work on the Howard Stern show, and now it's 1998. I'm starting to write for the Howard Stern show, and I'm like, shit, maybe I should go back to New York and so I can be closer to Howard. And so I reached out to Mitch and said, hey man, there's this thing going on with the Howard Stern show. Would it be okay to stay with you while I try to figure out where I'm going? Because I don't know where to live in New York. And he was like, hell yeah, you can stay as long as you want. And then I moved in with him, and then I started. I picked up another writing gig for a Weekend Update for Colin Quinn was the Weekend Update guy, and I was writing for Howard. And then I started to figure out where to live. And then Mitch signed a deal with this. Was it Fox? It was either Fox or ABC. He signed like a crazy, like $750,000 deal, maybe $1 million. I read about it.
Development deal?
Yeah, I read about it it was a holding deal. I think that might be the same thing where it's like, basically, here's money for you to not work with any other network
while we figure out what to do with you.
Exactly.
Right.
And then if the terms of this agreement pass, like if this, we get through the entire 3 years and we don't do anything with you, that money's yours. And that's when Mitch moved into the Chelsea Hotel.
Okay.
And then that's when the story started, that people started saying, hey man, did you hear about Mitch? Things are getting bad. And I'm like, no. Mitch? No, man, he's like, he smokes weed and sometimes we do coke together, but no, he's not like that. Like, yeah, dude, he's bad. Kept hearing about it from more and more people.
This was a heroin.
Started hearing about heroin. Yeah, which it never came up. Never came up in conversation. And he was just like a easygoing, like pot smoker. He liked to smoke weed, and he had an actual typewriter. He liked to type his jokes out.
That sounds right for him too, for some reason.
On a typewriter, but he also was
clickety clack, man. Hell yeah! I like that noise a typewriter makes.
Yeah, it was.
It sounds like a bit.
I was just in Minneapolis 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and I got to spend time with Arnie, his dad, and we sat on his front porch and shared stories about Mitch. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. The guy who's putting this documentary together knows everything about Mitch. Like, when
is this another comic or a fan or a director?
He's a fan. He's a director. He's already been right now. He's nominated. He may have just won an Emmy for the Billy Joel concert special that he did.
Cool.
He's got a documentary on Netflix, a couple documentaries on Netflix, but he's obsessed with Mitch. And when I met him, I started to describe my timeline with Mitch, and he goes, yes, and that is when this happened in Mitch's life, and this is also at the time when he broke up with Jana, and this is when this happened. And that's right when you come in, and then he comes into this, and then this. And
I was like, damn, bro, are you Mitch?
Shit. Yeah. even his dad said, that guy knows more about Mitch than I do. And I go, same. He's the perfect guy to do this documentary.
I mean, I guess that's who you want doing the doc.
Yeah, you want someone who knows exactly. I mean, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
You go to a funeral, and a priest who doesn't know that friend of yours that you love goes up and tries to describe your friend, and you're sitting there going, that's not what he was like. Like, what the, and you want someone who's going to care enough and cares about the details. And this guy absolutely cares about the details of Mitch's life. And he's nailing it. More and more people are getting involved. He's got so much momentum right now with this documentary. I'm very excited for him.
Yeah, man, that'll be cool. And I'm glad that, Mitch will get introduced to a whole new generation of people through the streaming apps. And, hopefully his family's still getting money from, hopefully they'll go watch his specials and the family will get paid on that. It's weird when you talk about him killing the waves of laughter thing. The only person I've ever witnessed that, Tony Roberts? Do you know who Tony Roberts is?
I know the name.
Black dude, black comic, BET guy. Man, so funny in the room. Like the kind of guy you're like, God damn, I would not want to follow this dude. Because he gets a laugh on the joke. He gets a laugh on his reaction to the joke.
No shit.
You know what I mean? Like he reacts to his own silliness in a way that like.
Where's he from?
He's from Detroit, but I mean, he's lived in LA for a long time. Dude's a killer, man. And that was one of those times where I'm like, man, this guy's milking every. It's like you said, he's probably doing like 25, 30 minutes of material in an hour because it's just the laughs are in waves. You talked about it briefly.
You know what? If you guys want, I can just, this weekend at the Funny Bone in Westport, I could Google Tony Roberts.
Okay.
Put that on a microphone.
And just do it.
And just stand there and just be like.
This is what we were talking about.
Again, this is comedy. Am I right?
Oh, you're a killer. I can't wait to go see Craig's show. I want to talk about one more thing real quick, and then we're going to get into a little quick-fire celebrity poop session. You talked about it while you were talking about Mitch. You were SNL Weekend Update writer.
I was a contributing writer.
And that was during the Colin Quinn era of Weekend Update, who I love. Another great guy. Another great open for him. He gave me some really good advice. One of those guys that didn't have to, which is you find that.
No, Colin, one of the best stories ever is Colin Quinn giving, and Colin told it to me. I ran into him on the street and, hey, how you been? Where you been? Where you going? And I said, I'm going to the Super Bowl. I go to the Super Bowl every year and I interview players. And he goes, Super Bowl? You go to the Super Bowl? And I go, yeah, man, it's like, there's comedians there. There's like, and I was like, I think Chris Rock and Adam Sandler are going to be there promoting a movie. Larry the Cable Guy is going to be there, and Colin Quinn goes, "Larry the Cable Guy, are you gonna see Larry the Cable Guy?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll probably see him at some point." He goes, "Can you do me a favor? Can you please apologize to him for me?" And I go, "Sure." And he tells me the story that he was in Atlanta, Georgia, decades ago, when Larry the Cable Guy, whose real name is Dan Whitney.
Dan Whitney, yep.
Walks up to Colin Quinn and goes, "Hey, Colin, my name's Dan Whitney. I'm a stand-up comedian. Do you mind watching my stand-up comedy? Watch me do my thing?" And so Colin goes, "Yeah, sure." So he watches him go up on stage, and he gets off stage, and he goes, "Hey, Colin, what'd you think of my set?" And Colin goes, "Oh, it's good. It's good. That thing you did in the middle with what is that, Larry the Cable Guy? I would get rid of that." And he goes, "Craig, I almost stole $1 billion out of his pocket. I almost took $1 billion and said, put this over here. Forget that. Take that $1 billion and just leave it on the table." He goes, "It's the worst advice I've ever given anybody in my life." He was so fucked up over it.
And you know what's wild is I've had so many comedians tell me that Dan Whitney was so fucking funny. Like pre-Cable Guy, they're like, just Dan was funny.
Yeah.
His act was funny before he, took on the pseudonym, but that would have been $1 billion loss for him.
Yeah.
To listen to Colin Quinn. So maybe I shouldn't have listened to Colin Quinn's advice. And maybe it came from this because he almost gave me, I wouldn't say it's the opposite of that, but we were doing a show in Buffalo. I was doing well. We were doing stuff, but we were chatting and kind of, shooting the shit in the green room. And he's like, he goes, "Man, you're really funny." And he's like, "You're great on stage." And he goes, "You're funny as hell back here." And he goes, "If I give you any piece of advice, if you want it." And I go, "Yeah, what's up?" And he's like, "You're too worried about the left liking you." And he's like, he's like, "You're kind of a middle of the road guy." He's like, "You don't seem like you really like either political party." And I'm like, "No, I'm not a fan really of either. It's that thing George Carlin said about groups." And like, and something Colin Quinn always said, he's like, "Yeah, I didn't become a comedian so I could march in lockstep with the rest of society. And so I could have my own free-thinking ideas." And he goes, he goes, "I can't wait to see what your comedy's going to be like when you stop giving a shit if everybody likes you."
Wow.
And he's like, he goes, "You got some really interesting things to say, but he's like, you're saying them all in the green room. I don't see you saying them on stage." And, I took that to heart, and it changed my act a little bit, where I was like, you know what, he's right. Basically what he was saying, and Greg Warren has said this, he's like, you learned how to be funny. He's like, you know how to be funny. Now you got to figure out what you want to say. And I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting. He's like, nobody's talking to the people in the middle right now. He's like, nobody's been talking to them since Roseanne. He goes, Roseanne's the first show that came out and showed poor people on TV, And he's like, and no one's done it since. Everyone's like still well-to-do. everyone's an advertising executive or a celebrity chef in these sitcoms.
Wow.
And I thought it was a good piece of advice. What was that like? Did you just submit jokes on a weekly basis for Weekend Update? Did you actually go into Studio 8H and pitch? Like, what was that process like for you?
No, I was one of, at any given time, 15 to 20 people who were faxing in my jokes. They had the staff.
Okay.
And Colin was open to other people sending him jokes. And I mean, down to stagehands would go, hey, Colin, I thought about this thing. And like, he was totally open to it. And I met a guy at an open mic across the street from Studio 54. There was I want to say it was called Ye Old Triple Inn. Is that what it was called? And they had an open mic one night a week, and I just bombed on this. Like, the audience was so bad. I remember somebody hissing at me for something I said that offended them. And I was so annoyed with the crowd that I said, what's going on? What is going on with this crowd? And someone said, maybe you're not funny.
Damn.
And I said, no, that's not it. That's definitely not it. Like, there's something here that's wrong. And so it was like a rare night where I was feeling really irritable and combative with the crowd. And then I walked off stage, and this guy walked up to me in the bar and said, I thought you were funny. Can I buy you a drink? And I was like, you want to get me 2 Jack and Cokes? And he goes, sure. And he bought me 2 Jack and Cokes, and we're talking. And I said, are you a comedian? He goes, no. He goes, I work for Saturday Night Live. And I said, what do you do for Saturday Night Live? He's like, I'm in the cue card department. And I was like, holy shit.
Can I just pause for a second? Knowing where you were in your career, I know the fact that someone offered to buy you a drink and you asked for 2 lets me know exactly where you were in your career in this moment. Such a struggling comedian.
Accurate.
Yeah, you can buy more than 1. Actually, how about 2 Jack and Cokes?
Yeah.
But anyway, Saturday Night Live, go.
And I told him I've always wanted to go to SNL, and he's like, yeah, well, you can go anytime you want. Here's my phone number. And I was like, are you serious? And then I remember my girlfriend at the time, we were at some concert in New Jersey. I can't remember what the concert was, but I texted the guy and said, hey, would it be okay if tonight's the night? Because, SNL has this weird schedule where they do like 2 Saturdays in a row, then they'll take a couple weeks off, and then they'll do a couple 3 Saturdays in a row. And so when I met him, it was during an off week. They were dark, and a couple weeks later, I said, hey, it's Craig Gass. And he goes, yeah. And I remember we were in the middle of a concert when he said, meet me on 50th, was it 50th? Outside of 30 Rock at 11 p.m. The first show gets out at, the first show gets out at 10:30. They do 2 shows on Saturday night. They do a 2.5-hour SNL at 8 p.m. local time. And that's not broadcast, but it's 2.5 hours. And
yeah, I've been to one.
And after that 2.5-hour show, they take an hour from 10:30 to 11:30 and decide what they're going to take out. What 60 minutes of the show is going to be removed. And then they bring it down to 90 minutes, and then they go live at 11:30, and that's the show that everybody sees. And so the guy met us downstairs, brought us up, and a week later, I said, hey, is it cool if I come back? And he goes, yeah. And he brought me back up there, and this time he introduced me to Colin Quinn, a couple other people. And Colin Quinn's like, man, this guy does great impressions. And he goes, hey, listen to this guy. He does impressions. And then I started to really overstep. And I think I went 3 or 4 shows within like a 2-month period. Like, hey, can I come back? Hey, can I come back? And I could feel his reluctance on that last trip of like, yeah, is it just you? And I was like, yeah. I was going to try to bring somebody, but I'm like, yeah, just me. And so he meets me down on 50th Street. He brings me up. And that night, at some point, Colin Quinn was having me do impressions for people in the hallway. And I said, Colin, I have a friend who says he writes for you. Do you know this comedian? And I mentioned his name. And I didn't really know that comedian that well, but that guy had mentioned that he wrote for Colin. And Colin goes, yeah, that guy, he faxes in his jokes. And I go, I write for Howard Stern. Would it be okay if I faxed in some jokes? And he's like, yeah. And he gave me the fax number, and he just said, fax in your jokes. It's got to be on a Friday before a live show. Just fax it in before 5 p.m. on a Friday. And when I say I wrote for Howard, I didn't write for Howard. I wrote for myself on Howard's show, like whatever characters. So for the first time ever, I started writing topical jokes about the news and faxing them in to Colin every other Friday whenever they would do a live show. And if the joke made it all the way to air, which had to get, there were somewhere between, I want to say, 25 and 30 staff members that were writing for the show. And then I was one of 15 or 20 comedians that were faxing in jokes. So in the year and a half that I was writing stuff for Colin, there was one joke that made it to air. But the excitement of now being able to say, like, hey, do you mind if I step in on Saturday just to watch? It gave me a little more leeway to get up there and go up to that floor and then go to the after parties. And, the after party is always at a different bar or location in town. And it was exciting to be able to be up there all the way. And I had a feeling that Colin was about to leave in May of 2000. It just, there was some weird energy about his time at the news desk, at the Weekend Update news desk. And I got drunk and I hit on Lorne Michaels for an audition. And he was like, yeah, sure. You just call my office like in July or August. That's when we start looking at people. And I called his office. He gave me a number to call. I called the office. And
welcome to Pure Moods.
Yeah.
Damn it, Lorne.
And he, the guy who answered the phone said, okay, well, you can just have your agent call us. And I said, I don't have an agent. And the guy at Lorne's office said, oh, well, then I don't know how to go about this then. And I said, oh, yeah, never mind. And I hung up.
Never called back?
Never called back.
God, I'm surprised you with your repertoire.
I was so
that
scared.
You didn't call back and do the Andy Kaufman move, like, Shapiro!
Yes.
Stay away from Kaufman. Listen up, Lorne.
Yeah. Oh,
Craig Gass is my client.
Is that right?
This is Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Whoa.
Stay away from Craig. Yeah, apparently that's how he got Robert Shapiro to represent him, was called and pretended to be another
George
agent.
Shapiro?
Oh, yeah, George Shapiro.
Yeah, I think Robert Shapiro was the OJ.
You're right, which would be very funny.
Yeah.
George Shapiro. Andy Kaufman called his office and threatened him, as another agent. That he's like, Kaufman's my client. You stay away from him. He's going to be a big star. I've been working with this kid.
And
that's how he got George Shapiro to go down and see his show.
I have definitely done that. I've done that many times. But
By club bookers, or what are you doing? Where are you doing it?
This is so lame. I've done it to my favorite rock stars and comedians. Dude, I should tell this story. I prank called Tom Arnold. The first time I ever met him, I prank called him. I heard he was in town. A comedian friend of mine this is like open mic days. And another open micer was like, dude, you know that Planet Hollywood that's opening in town? Yeah, dude, all the stars from Planet Hollywood for the grand opening, they're all at the hotel that I work at. And I was like, who are the stars? And he goes, fucking Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Arnold. And I was like, Tom Arnold is at your hotel? And he goes, yeah. Tom Arnold had just killed it in True Lies in 9 months. And I was like, dude, I'm calling the hotel. So I called the hotel, the Sheridan in downtown Seattle. And I said, hi, Tom Arnold, please. And they said, okay, just one moment. And they put me through. I never recorded this. I just did this for myself. Tom Arnold picks up the phone and he goes, hello, Tom, it's Sam Kinison. And he goes, and by the way, Sam Kinison had been dead for over 10 years at this point. And Tom Arnold goes, hey, buddy, how you been? And I go, John, I need your help. I'm in the afterlife and I need your help. Yeah, whatever you need, buddy. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, tell me what you want me to do. And I said, well, I need some cocaine. And this is where it gets tricky. So I need you to follow my instructions. What I want you to do, Tom, is I want you to get into, first of all, purchase some cocaine and front me the cash because I don't have any cash. And then I want you to get on a plane. I want you to fly back to Los Angeles and I want you to drive to Jerry Lewis's house. And when you get to Jerry's house, I want you to take the cocaine. I want you to put it in the small pocket of his pants, and I'll have it when he gets here in 3 weeks. Oh! 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 Oh. And then I backed off and I said, I'm sorry, Tom. My name's Craig Gass. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a huge fan of yours. I just wanted to say hi. And he goes, yeah, that impression is so good. I need to call my sponsor. That's how good it is. You're freaking me out right now. And yeah, I just did that for myself. And I've done that so many times where I've called people who I love, and I just did it. I did it for myself. And, but Lorne Michaels being Lorne Michaels, it scared me. George scared me. George intimidated me. There's people that, the last time I talked to Eddie Van Halen was, it wasn't a prank call, but I had heard that he had gotten sober. And, if you look it up, the time that I spent at Eddie Van Halen's house, was marred by the fact that I found out a year after I moved out. I moved in because I was trying to get away from a toxic relationship that I was in. Found out a year later that Ed's assistant was fucking her the entire time while I was at the house. And the
girl that you were getting away from?
Yeah.
Oh, wild.
And they were together for 5 years. They almost got married. And I was, he's Eddie Van Halen, so I'm always intimidated when I would see his phone number. But the last time I called him, he goes, hello? He's always smoking. Who is this? And I said, hey, Ed, it's Craig Gass. And he goes, hey, man, what's going on? And I said, not much. What are you doing? And he goes, sitting on the toilet, taking a shit. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, you want me to call you back? And he's like, no, talk to me. What's happening? And I was like,
He was a pioneer of this podcast. And we're a Van Halen, we're a DLR Van Halen podcast, but Van Halen nonetheless.
Yeah. So there's an awkwardness.
What did you talk about while you were shitting, or was that all you were thinking about? You're like the greatest guitar player of all time is pushing out a growler right now.
Yeah, and I just said, oh, no, I can call you back. And he goes, no, talk to me. And I said, how you been? And he goes, doing great. How you been? And I go, I'm doing good, man. I'll give you a call in a little bit. And he's like, all right, that's fine. I'll talk to you later. And that was it. That was the last time I talked to him, because, again, to dial that number again would be to pull up Eddie Van Halen's number again.
Right.
And push call. And that was a very intimidating thing to me for a few guys that are in my phone.
I get that, man. I got a few of those numbers in my phone where I'm like, man, I'm going to really... it's hard for me even in a day and age where you're supposed to ask people, when I was featuring, it's like, man, I just hate even putting people in that position where they got to tell me yes or no. And I know that that's part of it, where you're just like, hey, man, can I grab a couple dates, and that people usually don't care, but it's like, I would even tread lightly on that. I've never been the type of person that can just like completely overstep a relationship. And the last thing you want to do is ruin a relationship with someone you truly admire or look up to. That makes it even harder.
True, but in the end, and I'm probably the wrong guy to be giving out this advice. Like, do you want to have the regret of not asking?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You had that relationship.
And the funny thing about that story is that you literally know in your heart the last time you spoke to Eddie Van Halen, he was taking a shit.
Absolutely,
which is crazy to me.
But more importantly, not knowing where he sat on the whole story with me and my ex and his assistant.
Like if he knew about it?
He definitely, because they ended up together for 5 years. So now Ed's.
Oh, okay.
Now Ed is seeing her at the house again, but with him, his assistant. So his upbeat demeanor and happiness in his voice, to hear my voice, gave me what I needed to hear, which was, dude, I miss you.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, he wasn't taking his assistant's side on that.
Right. Did you move out because you found out about that?
No, I moved out because the tour was starting, what was it, in May of 2004, so no one was going to be there, so it wasn't, I don't even remember if it was told to me that I had to move out. I just knew that it's like I can't just stay here
Camp.
on Eddie Van Halen's property while he's touring around.
How'd you end up in Eddie Van Halen's property? I know you tell the story a lot. You can give me the abridged version because I want to get into something else here in a sec. But
backstage at a concert in L.A., there's a friend to a lot of people in the industry. A guy, I don't know if he likes his name being mentioned for this, but his name is Scott Uchida, and he worked for Dunlop. And Dunlop is a company that does a lot of things. One of the things Dunlop does is they make those personalized guitar picks that when you catch a guitar pick at a concert and it has like the band's logo on one side and an autograph on the other, they make a lot of those picks. And that's the only hobby I've ever had in my life was collecting guitar picks. Well, cocaine, collecting guitar picks were my two hobbies in life. And what
a great tool to do cocaine off of.
Yeah.
Also.
You could scoop it up with the edge of the pick. And so Scott worked for this company, and he's a huge Howard Stern fan. And he goes, "You collect guitar picks? I can hook you up with guitar picks." And I was like, "Oh my God, dude, I would love to get some guitar picks from you." And then, so we become friendly. I see him backstage at this concert in LA, and he's like, "Dude, let me introduce you to some people." He knows I'm a huge music fan. This is blah, blah, blah. This is blah, blah, blah. This is blah, blah. This is Craig Gass. This is a comedian. He works on the Howard Stern show. Every person he's introducing me to, I'm such a nerd about music and bands that the names he's mentioning, I'm like, "You're on the liner notes for the Ozzy, Blizzard
Totally
of Oz
nerding
album."
out.
Yeah, I'm like,
"I
dude,
get this fucking square out of here."
Dude, you're in the thank you notes for Foo Fighters' second album. You're the guy that like I'm freaking out like quietly, and then Scott says, "Hey, okay, oh my god, dude, I'm gonna introduce you to this guy. Don't tell anybody. This guy that I'm going to introduce you to, he lives with one of the biggest rock stars on the planet. But don't tell him I told you that. Hold on." "Maddie, hey, buddy. I don't know if you're a comedian, a comedy fan, or Howard Stern fan. This is my buddy Craig Gass." And this guy turns around and goes, "Dude, I am your biggest fan." And I said, "Get out of here. Really? Oh, man, that's cool. Right on." So we start talking, and we end up shooting the shit for a while that night. We exchanged phone numbers. And I don't know anybody in LA, so I asked him if he wants to go bowling a few nights later. We're going to go bowling out in the valley. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll go bowling. Is it cool if I bring my friend Ed with me? Because I've been telling him about you for the last year or two, and he really would love to meet you." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And he goes, "Okay, because, he's got a kid. His kid's 12. I go, "Dude, it's bowling. Who gives a shit?" Fucking Eddie Van Halen shows up at the bowling alley with his kid, Wolfie. And that night, so many weird things happened. So many unusual. Just the fact that Eddie Van Halen walks in the bowling alley smoking a cigarette. You're not supposed to smoke. And then Matty goes, "Hey man," he goes,
"Did he put on the shoes?" Because me thinking about Eddie Van Halen putting on those stinky Velcro bowling shoes is hilarious to me.
You know what's funny is I don't remember the shoes, but I do remember a lot of things that were very unusual. One, that Wolfie kept throwing the ball overhand.
Yeah.
Like a
baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that nobody noticed that Eddie was there for a good 20 minutes. Nobody know, and I was very self-conscious looking around like, oh boy, but no one was looking at us. No one was looking at us until Wolfie threw a ball that landed in such an awkward way that it actually ended up stopping on one of those things in between the lanes where the balls come underneath. It just sat perfectly in between the lanes. And I was like, "Oh shit, we got to get someone to help." And Eddie goes, "I'll get it." And he just walked all the way down the bowling alley. And that's when I turned to my left and I saw people going, "Holy shit, that's fucking Eddie Van Halen."
Slow-mo, yeah.
"That's fucking Eddie Van." And the whole alley started to notice it. And I remember in it must have been the 5th or 6th frame, Eddie just went, "I'm going to go play foosball." And I was like, "Dude, it's the 5th frame. You can't fucking walk away from it." And he goes, "I want to play foosball." And I go, "Dude, it's like 5 more throws. Just 5 more throws and you can." He's like, "I want to play foosball." And he just walked away. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't just walk away from the 5th frame. And I also remember, I was just talking to this guy the other day, my buddy Dave Lee, who's a guitar tech. He's He works with Maroon 5 now. He's been with Maroon 5 for the last almost 10 years. And Dave Lee was there that night when Eddie left the bowling alley, and he goes, "Hey, I gotta go." And this was after a crazy night of conversations. Like, Eddie Van Halen knows my life story,
Right.
because he's hearing about it through his assistant through the Howard Stern show. And one of the stories was Eddie had heard the story about how broke I was and how I said on the air, I've been broke my whole life. All I've ever wanted to own was one of those illegal cable boxes. That's it. I want an illegal cable box. I want to have free cable. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted to own in my life. And at the bowling alley, Eddie goes, "Dude, I heard you broke your whole life." "Me too." He goes, "And I heard that all you ever wanted was an illegal cable box. Is that true?" And I said, "It is." And I actually got one. And Eddie goes, "That's crazy," and he looked both ways and he went, "I got an illegal cable box too." And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah. The thing is, I'm fucking rich, but don't want to pay for cable." And I was like, "What the fuck? Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "What the fuck?" It was so fucking surreal. At the end of the night, Eddie says goodbye. He kisses his assistant on the lips. And he goes, "I love you. I'll see you in a little bit." Scott Rizzuto, "Hey, good night. I love you." It's like a European thing.
Yeah.
It's like, "I love you. I love you." He comes up to my friend Dave. Dave is in between me and Eddie. And he goes, "Dave, nice to meet you." And he starts leaning in. Dave starts moving his neck back. And then at the very end, I could see Dave pucker. And then he puckered. And I remember we got at the bowling alley and I go, "Dude, you fucking puckered up for Eddie Van Halen." He goes, "Well, dude."
I would have tongued him.
He goes, "It's Eddie Van Halen, dude. I'm going to pucker up for Eddie Van Halen."
Oh, yeah.
He goes, "Dude, I'm fucking," yeah. Oh, it was
Part
so
of it was
hilarious.
probably Eddie Van Halen being like, "I'm Eddie Van Halen. I can kiss anybody. I
Yeah.
answer the phone on the shitter."
Yeah, I'm prolonging this whole thing. And the short from here to there is I got in a toxic relationship. It was very unhealthy. Everyone knew about it. There were just it was toxic. And then it ended in a glorious evening one night in Anaheim at this big thing called the NAMM show out in LA. I was at a party. I left for a few minutes to go pee. And when I came back, the girl that I was dating was making out with a guy at the bar. And
That old chestnut.
Yeah, it hurt. It really hurt. And I called up Maddie, the assistant, and I said, "Hey, dude, I just want you to know what I just witnessed." And Maddie goes, hold on. Ed wants to talk to you. I got on the phone. He goes, "Dude, I told you she was a whore." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, no, he called her a skank. I'm sorry. He called her a skank, not a whore. And he goes, "And you're fucking living with her. Why are you living with her?" And I said, "She's the only person I know in this town besides you guys." And he goes, "Dude, back up your shit. Move in with me." And I said, "Is that okay?" And he goes, "Yeah."
I'll put the chore list on the fridge.
He goes, "You could stay." He goes, "You could stay as long as you want." He goes, "The only thing is, you can stay in the recording studio, but don't tell anybody. But the band's getting back together, so it's going to be noisy at night, And I was like, "So the only thing I have to worry about is the fact that Van Halen is going to be playing in the next room?" And he said, "I know you got your TV show that you got to film," because I was filming a new show on NBC called Las Vegas that I was doing. James Caan, Alec Baldwin show. James Caan was the
Used to watch it.
cast member, and then Alec and we robbed the casino. And so for the first few weeks of my time there, I was spending all day during the day on a TV set telling jokes to James Caan and Alec Baldwin, and then every night I was hanging out with Eddie in his recording studio. There was a couch in another room, but I'd come home, knock on the door to the studio, and say, "Hey man, I just got home. Is it okay to listen for a little bit before I go to bed?" And every night he'd go, "Dude, I'm lonely. Come on in." And
What a funny thing for the biggest rock star in the world.
yeah. Oh, he was. Yeah, he was definitely a hermit. He.
Yeah, you have to be at that point of stardom, I would imagine.
Well, he was already a very introverted guy, a very awkward guy socially. So when he becomes what he becomes, he doesn't know how to handle that attention.
Sure.
And so yeah, it really kind of was.
So you got a new roomie.
So yeah,
Greg motherfucking Gas.
oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, there were
Just
moments.
imagine what a sitcom that would be if, like, Eddie Van Halen leaving a chore list on the fridge of just like, well, I've done dishes the last 3 times, boys. I'm not pointing fingers here.
Yeah.
But,
Well, he was in a separate. He was in a mansion. It was basically.
yeah, I figured it was not a. Wasn't a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right. It's basically 2 properties that were brought together.
Amazing.
And I lived on the half of the property that was originally just his original home and his recording studio. And then he bought the property next door, demolished what was there, and then had them regrade the earth and build a mansion and a guest house.
Sweet.
His assistant was in the guest house. Ed was in the mansion, and then I was in the recording studio. And the original house had just become storage. It
What
was
a wild convergence of circumstance, man.
He's battling cancer at the time and winning with alternative medicines. He had a cancer guy that would come up once a week to give him a drip. And that first time the guy came up, opened the door, I was on the couch and I sat up and I was like, "Hey, I'm Craig. I'm just staying here. I'm friends with Maddie." And Ed walked up behind the cancer guy and he goes, "Dude, what the fuck? You're not my friend?" And I go, "Oh, well, I didn't want to assume, to say I'm your friend, And he goes, "Dude,
You're living in my house."
And he goes, "That's exactly what he said." He goes, "Dude, you're living in my house." And I go, "Yeah, that's true." And he goes, "I love you." And I said,
He kiss you on the lips?
Didn't kiss me on the lips that time.
Damn.
And he goes, "I love you." And I go, "I love you too, Ed." Yeah. It was surreal. It was surreal. And, didn't end.
Eddie Van Halen loves you, dude. That's cool as hell.
Right? Very nice. Very sweet man. I've had a lot of crazy moments like that in my life. And
man, we gotta have you back on to talk about more of them. Right now, I've only got a couple minutes left, and I don't want to cut you off, but I have to right now.
Westport Funny Bone.
Westport Funny Bone, all weekend long. Go get tickets. In honor, I got about 3 to 4 minutes left before I got to wrap this thing up.
Okay.
So what I want to do in honor of, because you do a ton, you're a master impressionist, hilarious dude, on your own. Just the jokes are amazing, and then your impressions on top of it. It's an amazing show. I've seen you perform. Always blown away. Go to Westport Funny Bone this weekend. Go get tickets right now. Go to craiggas.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. No, getgas.com.
Getgas.com.
Get gas with
That's 2 S's.
Yep.
Or go to the Westport Funny Bone website, or go on the Riz Show socials and click the link that we have up right now and get yourself tickets. In honor of, since you called Eddie Van Halen on the shitter, that seems like an apropos way to segue into this. I want to do a quick run through with your impressionist skills of celebrities pooping, everybody.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to give you a celebrity, Craig, and I want you to, as if I were in the stall next to this person, what I might hear.
Okay.
If they were trying to squeeze one out. Let's start with the incomparable Gene Simmons.
Oh, boy. This is a good one. And if you want to see it, it's available right now for $49.95 at kissonline.com. Click on my undies, and it'll take you right to the photo. Boom.
There it is. Gene Simmons, everyone. And he would charge you to look at his turds. All right. How about Tracy Morgan?
This is sexy. This is my favorite category on YouPorn. God damn, this doesn't. Ooh, something's coming out wrong. I'm getting horny.
All right. Al Pacino.
Oh, boy. I don't know if I'm going to survive this one. Oh, here we go. Hoo-ah.
Great. Something's happening. Let's hear Morgan Freeman.
There was a time when this used to be much easier. But as I grow older, I need more fiber. Pow.
That's the voice of God, everyone. Andy Dufresne. How about Adam Sandler?
Bloopy bloop.
Ploopty ploop. I'm the poop. I make the house stink. Ploopity ploop. All right, let's close this thing out strong. I will be Gary Busey, and you be Christopher Walken, and we're stuck. I'm going to try to... I need Christopher to try to borrow a square of toilet paper from Gary Busey.
Gary.
Come in. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Start over.
I can't come in. I'm in the other stall. Listen, your grandfather wanted this turd that I just dropped off. So he kept it in the only place it would fit, in his ass. I just dropped it off in your toilet now. I need to borrow something from you as my neighbor. What do you got?
I got a few squares over here, but I got to tell you, here's what I like to do. I like to take a Buseyism, all right? And I like to make a word mean something else by rearranging its letters.
Of course.
Now, what you're doing over there, Christopher, is you're taking a poop, all right? Poop. Purse, open, O-rings, pushing. All right, seriously, start over. Approach me like an ex-girlfriend at a mutual friend's wedding reception. Ask me for a square of toilet paper. Make me feel loved.
Gary, that was hilarious. But I got an emergency. Give me that jacket you brought in. I need a jacket. Square is not going to work for this one.
I'll rip the sleeves off my jacket and I'll slide them over to you because I swear allegiance to you because I know that Christopher Walken is not just an actor but a living time wizard living amongst us. I will rip the sleeves off. I will hand it to you under there. I want you to wipe your ass, but I want you to keep it because skid marks, skids, saving, caring, ignorant, dumbass.
I love it. Satin feels so good on my ass. All right. You might want to get a plunger. I got to go.
And scene. Well, God damn, dude. There's a sitcom for you. There you go. That was Celebrities Pooping. And let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, HPV. And we'll be right back to wrap this thing up. HPV, it's already in you. And we're back. It's time for the wrap up, everybody.
Kind of crazy that your sponsor, HPV, is actually opening my shows at the Westport Funny Bones.
That's right. Everyone go see Craig Gass this weekend. If you're watching this live or listening to it on any streaming platform at St. Louis Westport Funny Bone, go to the website or go to getgass.com. That's GETGASS.com and go see Craig. He is a hilarious comedian. He's a good friend. This was a super fun podcast. I could have sat here for another 2 hours and talked to you.
Same.
But we got to get the hell out of here. Maybe you can come back and do another one this week. I would love it if you did.
Love it.
Be sure to like, and I know this is cliche, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a positive review. You can leave reviews now on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps get the word out for my podcast. It helps me find other people that'll like it as much as you guys like it. Because if you're still listening at this point, you got to at least admit you like something. Or what the fuck are you still doing here? You must really like the hate watch stuff. So go see Craig Gass at the Westport Funny Bone. Like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm your host, Rafe Williams. Big thanks to my guest, Craig Gass. This is the #2 show. Always wipe front to back.